Hello, Jared.
Hello.
Okay, quiz time since Zach is off at his daughter's graduation event. You know what this is?
No idea. I mean, are you trying now to just get these songs that nobody's ever heard?
You are thoroughly embarrassing yourself in real time right now. There's a generation of people that are like, this guy is now officially off our good list.
I don't know it.
It's theme. Where are we?
We're in the Queen City.
We are in the Queen City. What's the most famous television show out of the Queen City?
I don't know that.
That would be WKRP.
That's before my time, I think.
No, your dad was watching. He made you watch it. He probably had you at his feet.
Is it before our time?
No. You're a little guy. All right, enough of that. Now everybody knows we are in Cincinnati, and that is due to a number of different factors. One, obviously, our guest today is here in Cincinnati. Two is, Jared, as usual, on a weekend, we are traveling the country, following the boys around. Yesterday, Columbus, today, Cincinnati. And the stars didn't really align for us on a number of different fronts. Yesterday's result in Columbus, not good for the 15s or the 17s. But last night on television, we were able to watch our beloved City SC. And thanks to that result, we are able to keep the podcast on the air.
Because we did get in deep. We talked a lot of smack.
I mean, the size of the hole that we dug talking trash is, it's hitting the magma core. Hot. 4-0, needless to say. Those of you that are listening, you know. We predicted a victory. We didn't predict that kind of victory, but the amount of text messages that we were receiving, we appreciate all the support and fear for our lives in the event that we would have lost that game, but we didn't. So now we get to keep on grinding them into the hole.
Yeah, and I tell you what, kudos to me. Cincinnati's got this great little downtown area in between the Red Stadium and the Bengals Stadium, so we were hanging out there, partaking, and we were at the Moreland Ale House or Lager House.
Moreline, yeah.
Moreline. And the bartender, we said, hey, where are we going to go watch the City game at?
Yeah.
And he happened to work at a place up the street who had the package.
It's called In Between.
The In Between. So we go into this place. Luckily, the Hell is Real game was during normal hours, and our game went ahead and got the 9-something start. That's ridiculous. So we hammered up there to that place, and the bartender just set us up nice, did he not?
Gave us 3 TVs. Our own little space. It
was wonderful. I mean,
he didn't throw you out.
Yeah, the hospitality of the Queen City.
Checked all the boxes. It's good night, good win. Today the boys played Cincinnati Academy, came out on top, low 5-2, just in case you were wondering. And now that we're done with all the small talk, because we don't want to keep too much of our guest time today, we're super privileged to have this gentleman on the show. He is another one of the long list of St. Louis legends that have played the game and is now coaching the game. We're just going to drop the name. We have Mr. Pat Noonan on the mic. How you doing, Pat?
I'm good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for returning Jared's text messages.
not exactly timely, but I'm glad it worked out. We just had to wait for you to drive 5 hours to watch your son, and then it worked out.
That's awesome, man. Thanks again, man. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, you've. Obviously, we've wanted you on for a while. We knew that kind of starting the show up. There's a certain list of names. Your name was near the top of the list as well. And then what's been going on with you and your career and and the team's performance up to this point and advancing in the Open Cup. We were like, oh shit, is this thing going to work? And thanks to you for making it happen today. And, first off, just congratulations on the year so far. You guys are really killing it.
Appreciate it.
Noticed, the result last night was a big result for you guys. And you're 8-0 at home, first in the East. Real quickly, kind of give us, where's your headspace? Where's your heart strings right now with the team? How do you feel going into the week?
Yeah, today's a little bit of recovery mode. A lot of adrenaline just from, the build up to the game last night, and then certainly the result, which was, I think, a big one for our group because, we have not a great history of success against Columbus. And, last year at TQL, we were up 2-1, gave away a late goal, last kick. And so there was the aftermath wasn't great, and just conceding and being that close to a win. So wild game last night. It was entertaining. A lot of good quality, individual quality talent on the field to be able to make some plays and create some goal scoring chances. So really pleased that our guys came out on top, and you could feel it in the building. It was different than
Kudos to your fans.
The fans have been outstanding, man. The energy, you could feel it. It was just different, and so they carry us when we're struggling, and we need to hear them and feel them, and so it was nice to reward them for their support and being behind this club through a lot of tough times, but. That was one of the better moments that we've had in my time here.
So let me ask you specifically in regards to the rivalry aspect of it, because obviously we assume that is your primary rival, being that it's hour and 30-minute drive down the road. Looking around the league, and with last night for us, you being a St. Louis and born and bred. You saw the St. Louis Kansas City game going on. You're living your experience, here with Cincy and the Columbus rivalry. How good of a job do you think the league is doing in really kind of encouraging or pushing the social media teams, et cetera, to like really throw fuel on that
these
fire?
derbies? Yeah, like get these derbies going.
Yeah, I don't want to be critical, but I think we push it sometimes too much and try to force these rivalries maybe before they've become one. And certainly Cincy and Columbus, has a rivalry to it, dating back to, but long before my time. So rivalries for me entail memorable games. Certainly the proximity factors into it, just like SKC and St. Louis City SC. So you need to have memorable moments, and sometimes when we talk about rivalries, it's for me, all right, what are the memorable games or moments, and why are we calling this a rivalry? And so you need a history, you need a long history. For me, 4 or 5 games, right away it was El Tráfico, and certainly that has become a rivalry, and for reasons of Zlatan and the games and how they played out, but it's got to be organic. It has to be something about these games, the coaches, the social media aspect that drives it in a real way. And then on the field, is there I don't want to say hatred, but a real dislike for your opponent? The game last night had great intensity. Myself, I would say for the other coach and Wilfred Nancy, we don't drive it well because it's not our personalities. The fans have to drive it. The history has to drive it. And so it wasn't like we got on the field and you just see a bunch of bodies colliding and dirty tackles, and that wasn't the game. So even though it is a rivalry, you're not talking about Celtic Rangers. You're not talking about Boca River. It's just going to
Bush Gallagher.
Bush Gallagher. It's going to take time. But
North County, South County.
Yeah, one sign on Highway 71, and we have a rivalry.
I'm often critical of the rivalry talk because. Sometimes it's just driving, that narrative, but there are some real ones, and I think last night was a good indication of where ours, stands, and hopefully the games feel like that continuously moving forward.
Yeah, because it's after last night's results across the league. Like my fear for St. Louis is like we really don't have a rival yet. Last night's 4-0. I'm throwing a lot of shade at Kansas City, by the way, because I want to ask your opinion about that rivalry on paper and in the media in particular. Do you just laugh at reading the stories on, soccer capital, soccer city? What's your take? You're a 314, right? So watching it from afar, do you have like a aha or an I gotcha feeling about that particular trash talk?
I don't, but to be honest, I don't read a ton of it. I don't read into a lot of it. So I wish I had the time to read all these, articles and the back and forth, but I got enough going on in my life with this job, with my family, with all these things. And so there are certain aspects of it that I've picked up, and it's the first game in terms of league play, MLS league play. So okay, one game, here's the rivalry is the history of Soccer City and KC. I've now seen that back and forth, but
Well, I'll tell you what, rumors could be, as they add San Diego, getting awarded that franchise potentially, and if there's some shuffling and maybe St. Louis goes east, this could be a real rivalry, Cincy St. Louis. I mean, it could be a legitimate rivalry.
Well,
Yeah, you need games. Like right now, based on, East and West, we won't see City potentially, next year. It's just a matter of the
Right.
but if they move into the East, then all of a sudden it's a different talking point, and you're seeing them a couple times a year as opposed to once every year or 2 years. So
Absolutely.
you need games, you need volume, and I imagine it's whether it's St. Louis City and SKC, or if we fall into that
Or Chicago.
rivalry talk, Chicago, it'll organically become something where those games that you have with the closer proximity league teams, you'll know and you'll feel it. And, I know you guys had a nice result yesterday against SKC, but you just need more. You need more of the games.
Well, I want to ask you about kind of your reaction to, as a fan, as a kid that grew up in where you did, and in your career and all the boxes that you've checked, and the people that have been close to you in the game, talking about St. Louis City in particular. When you found out that they were going to be awarded the team, and you found out who the ownership group, and you saw who was being brought in, can you give us just your 2 cents on, what it meant to you to know that your hometown was going to be entering the league, and your insight to the players that were involved in helping develop it and obviously fund it, and from Lutz and even the Twelmans, right, and their role in the process.
Right.
What did it mean to you to see your hometown get the team that we have now?
Long time coming. That the conversations have been going on long enough where you get teased into thinking, all right, we're going to have a team. We're going to have a team. We're going to have a team. And our city has deserved a major league franchise for a long time. So it's very satisfying. It's gratifying to see now it come to fruition. They're here, and they've done an excellent job in terms of building a successful starting point with where they're at in league play right now. Taking the time to get the staff together, to get players in the market prior to even being a major league soccer team, and so having them involved in the second team last year and playing games and getting familiar with their new city and environment, that stuff that matters when you look at now the immediate success they're having. But for those like myself, Jared, who were we grew up in this. I say this city. We're sitting here in Cincinnati, but when I say we grew up in St. Louis, and I don't want to say lived and breathed soccer, because we were playing all kinds of sports.
Yep.
That was just a part of our upbringing, where it was baseball, basketball, soccer. But I think our best memories, safe to say, are from our soccer days and the competition with Scott Gallagher and Bush. And then when you talk about St. Dominic and De Smet and the Metro Catholic Conference,
Without question,
there were so many, or are so many names that have come out of our city that had success and that were a part of. I don't want to say building that culture of soccer and success, and so many memorable moments. That's why people talk about St. Louis the way they do, because it is a hotbed for soccer. And when I say we, there's people that were long before our time.
That's what we talk about all the time.
So I don't want to be disrespectful, to those that actually were at the forefront of building. Soccer City.
Yeah, that's we talk about all the time on this show. I mean, it's the names you mentioned. It's the Taylors. It's the Altros, the five on the USA team in the 1950 World. I mean, we talk about it all the time. I mean, it's you said it great, because the city is deservedly so. The
history runs very deep, and now I bet the amount of text I got when we were in town. And then some from people I hadn't heard from a long time. I'm a season ticket holder. I'll be in the stadium. And it was just it's really cool to see all of the people that have been a part of, that soccer environment getting to enjoy, that stadium, that environment. I mean, it's a real environment.
How about the Team Noonan shirts?
That's what I was going to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, Did you guys have them made? I mean, who made them? I mean, there was 70 team Noonans there.
Yeah, so let's set the table a little bit, though, because Jared and I are infamous for not being able to sit down at any game, whether it's City SC or our Child's.
I just saw you guys are standing, walking the sidelines.
We stay away from humans. Good for them because they don't want us around either.
That's better.
But we were standing down in the corner at 100 on the southeast corner of the stadium, and in walks it was just a line of white tees, Team Noonan.
Blue. I think they were blue with orange lettering.
Yeah, you're right. And it was, but Team Noonan was what was printed on it. And I think it had to have been like 30, 35.
I turn around, look at this.
That's
this is
the
awesome.
family.
Was that all the family?
That was cousins, aunts, uncles. Yeah, it was a good crew, good following. They've always been great supporters of mine.
Where did they go for the 2-hour rain delay? Were they just at the bar
They
too?
were scattered. It was it was funny. I'm laying on the ground in the coach's office. We're watching all the games, so it wasn't the worst. You could, usually you don't get to see any of the action because it's all kicking off at the same time now with the Apple deal. But they're all texting me different pictures of where they're at. Some ale house, one, we had a crew that was in the hotel. That we were staying at, just at the bar. Some were using my room just to hang out, and I was just giving them updates of, hey, 30 more minutes, 45 more minutes, and so 3 or 4 different groups, and then they finally got the word that we were kicking off, and all came to the stadium.
It was so funny because we literally were standing kind of on the corner above where they were all seated, and they were seated directly below your traveling supporters.
Right.
And we all know how that game went. And I was kind of watching.
Not good, right?
Well, it depends on
who you ask.
I wasn't wearing a Team Noonan shirt.
Congrats on your victory.
Yeah, thank you. But but it was like I'm always curious. But I'm always curious about kind of that relationship of family members to players on the field or coaching staff or whatever, and especially whenever they're coming in from the opposing team, and I'm watching them react to the goals, and it was almost like the first goal goes in, and it was this like they didn't know what to do. Should we cheer because we're from St. Louis and we're happy? But wait a second, that's our guy. Did any of them like express, "I'll wear this shirt," but
they were wearing that shirt and they were supporting.
Heck yeah,
FCC. This was
the Noonan blood
on that night.
Stick.
They were not City fans, so. But I know a lot of them, do enjoy, being able to follow the team now. So when we're not playing them, they're following and they're supporting them. But my family's always been great supporters, loyal supporters of of my career and my travels. And so wherever I'm at, they're typically rooting for that team. So they were blue and orange,
as they should.
I mean,
didn't give them a lot to cheer about, and that was a tough night.
No, I felt for them. That was a tough night. Good for them though. I love the shirts. That was awesome. Let's go ahead and rewind.
Yeah, let's wind the clock back.
Yeah, because I think it's like now that we've kind of got to the point, those that are listening they know who you are. They know the successes that you are having at this level as a coach. But let's talk about the playing days. You grew up in Baldwin, correct?
Correct.
Talk a little bit about your own youth path, because so many of the other guests that we've had on here, part of the thing that our listeners really like is they want to know kind of the X's and O's, who, what, why, when.
Yep.
What club?
The secret sauce.
And what club did you start at? And we'll get to DeSmet and beyond after that.
Man, where to start? Gallagher was the club. That's where I spent, a majority of my time at the club level. I do remember the first team I got cut from, I think, was Leby. I remember getting cut, and that was the first time it was like.
How old were you when that happened, roughly? Are we talking teens?
And was it that coach's last year ever to coach?
9, 10, 9, 8, 9. My memory stinks, but. That was the first time of getting cut and being like, it was a wake up call, because I thought I was a shit, but no, I stepped in. I had a bad tryout and didn't make the team, but it led to the Gallagher days, and up until we collaborated with Bush to, right before leaving for college, it was all Gallagher. But
who was your early coaches, trainers? Who stood out to you in the Gallagher days?
Man. Mike Collum.
Sure.
Tommy Howe.
Tommy.
Heard of him.
Mike Gavane. we got some names. great coaches, great people. And to be honest, when you talk about the path, it wasn't just soccer for me growing up. And it wasn't, like this was my passion. I think I was pretty good at it, but I love baseball. I love basketball. I just love competing.
You were good at those
sport.
too, by the way. Like, don't be humble because, you're the leadoff hitter at DeSmet, in the state championship game.
Yeah,
so you were a good baseball player too, by all accounts.
I could hold my own, but I knew it was ending. In the high school days, but and that's when I think I realized in high school that there's a good chance to make a career of this. I'm getting recruited from some top universities, but going back, it was just soccer was something that I was talented at, I was good at, but the passion didn't start until later. But going back to those coaches, they were instrumental. I remember Tommy Howe, the amount of time that this guy put into trying to coach us, the technical side and the individual. He was very much about Brazil, and he loved those teams, and that's kind of how we coach. And I didn't respect the coaches enough at a young age and appreciate the work that they were putting in. I didn't like practices. I just loved playing games. And so I would miss practices to play in, baseball games or, basketball games. And then I would, go to the games, the soccer
games
games.
trump practice.
Well,
that's how we grew up.
And times have changed. You just can't get away with that
Well,
now in the
no,
world we live in.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to kind of follow up on, because it's really kind of one of those household debated items every day nowadays. And that is multi-sport participation. Obviously, here at the Club FC Cincinnati, you have the academy kids that are all, they're the next front, right? And what you just described was competition. You like to compete. You played these other sports. You were able to excel to other sports, but you had a choice, in the late '90s in particular. But as youth soccer has developed, a lot of that is being taken away, and it's not just soccer's fault. These other sports are really doing the same thing over time. Do you have an opinion as to, in those formative years, that 10 to 15, 10 to 16, when kids can be competitive, how important is it for kids, if possible, to play other sports?
I think that age range is probably a good time when you start saying, okay, for your child, and I'll use my son as an example, my daughter, what do you want to do? We try to get you in all these different sports. For me, at a young age, put him in everything. My son plays baseball. He plays soccer. He wants to play golf. He did basketball. My daughter, soccer, basketball, volleyball. Figure out what they like. Don't let it be too competitive. They're going to burn out if you're trying to say, you know what, my son's good at soccer. Let's get him in the top club and let's just focus on this at the age of 7, 8. For me, I don't agree with that approach because the kid's going to get burnt out. Now there are outliers. Proven. There are outliers to that. Just the driven kid that he's just great at soccer, or the girl that's just great at soccer, and this is their path. That's the case. But for me, they should be playing multiple sports if they enjoy multiple sports, to have the ability to develop in different ways, the hand-eye coordination, all of these things that are going to help them in whatever they decide to choose, if that's the route they go, which is sport, in those years of 10 to 16, like you say.
Totally agree.
When you start talking about youth development and us being, on the global stage, we're trying to compare ourselves to other countries, and sport is the top. Soccer is the top sport in these countries. We have baseball, we have basketball, we have football, we have hockey. We have too much for it just to be focused on one. And in a lot of those other countries, that's why they're ahead, is they have the history and this is their path. This is what everybody's doing. So for me, at those ages, if we say, okay, soccer's what my son wants to do or what my daughter wants to do, okay, now let's start to think about, going down one path and let's see what the best path is for you to develop and eventually, if your dream is to become a professional player or a collegiate player, whatever that, wherever you're trying to get, that's when I think you start to hone in on,
and that timing's different for everybody. I mean, it clearly is. That timing's different for everybody.
Well, I think also the big component is, just kids in general are frankly reaching puberty and accelerated growth earlier and earlier and earlier, right? And I think at that stage, that's where we've seen with our own children at this point, and you probably see it at the club level. You, 13, 14-year-olds these days are not the same as whenever we were 13, 14.
No.
They're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger. And their ability to really excel at any one of these given sports is accelerated. So what, do you look at that and do you like still try and measure, where their ability is, but where their mental maturity is? Just, looking at your kids coming down the pipe,
Right.
How do you plan on managing that on your own?
It's a good question, because I'm still trying to figure it out. I try to guide them to do certain things to stay active and social and try to meet people and figure out what do you enjoy doing, and then at a certain point, all right, what are we gonna start to hone in on? Like I said, but they're still my daughter's 11, my son's 9. They're too young. They're not mentally at a place where they can make these decisions
Right.
on their own. They need the guidance of parents to lead them down the right path. And then there's going to be a point where they're like, Mom, Dad, this is what I want to do. Okay, we'll try to support you every way we can to help you have success in doing that. But at what age, 13, 14, 15, I don't know. At 13, I could tell you this. How mature were you at 13?
I'm still not mature.
I was going to say 13. You should have seen him last night. It's a work in progress.
But I think what's different now is from when we were growing up is just the level of information we have with
Yes.
social media
Yes.
and the ability for the 11, 12, 13-year-old to gain knowledge about whatever it is they're trying to pursue. Where back when we were growing up, you just didn't have that.
No.
And so
you
Well,
didn't.
it's funny because I was literally thinking about that just the other day because we came back from Baltimore last weekend where it was the Next Flex qualifying tournament, right? And there's a couple of Instagram pages that all the kids love, right? They all follow it. The page could put a picture of a dandelion out there and it's going to get 10,000 likes. It's all these kids are like, yeah, follow me. And they repeatedly put these kids' names, different kids, different clubs, but they're U15, but they're 13 years old. They're playing up. And it's like, next best thing, and this kid. And these kids like gobble it up. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking to myself, this kid hasn't even hit puberty. He's not close. Like, he might have just started. He's got a little peach fuzz, but what's going to happen, in...
how good is that for them to be thinking, I'm the man?
I know.
I'm the man right now.
Does that bother you?
You've had one... this is like the rivalry talk. We drive this narrative of the next best thing because we see one good game. We do it, at the professional level with, the 17-year-old that comes onto the field and has a great game. And now we're talking about them for, the national team, or we're talking about them in Europe. And let's get past like maybe a 6 month or a year of consistency and how you perform. We are all over the, this is the next best thing. And there's a couple names, I won't use them, of guys right now that are professional players that a couple years ago were talked about like this was going to be the savior, and they're already bench players and bouncing around from league to league. It's just, it's not fair to the actual players, because I don't think even the 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old is mentally mature enough to be able to handle that at a professional level. So the 13-year-old kid who just took over at MLS or at the Flex tournament that had a great tournament. He can handle all this social media attention to him scoring a bicycle kick, and now he's the next best thing. It's too much pressure on him, and unfortunately, it's the world we live in, and people are going to drive that narrative. But I like to see consistency in people and players performing before you're going to crown them the next best thing in terms of U.S. soccer talent.
Yeah, because there's like a mushrooming effect of all of that, and frankly, I blame parents. Because parents are fully aware of the sites, of the links, of the quote viral, and there's no, most don't put any like speed bumps in the process or hey, time out, let's check this. Because Jared, talking about this, right? Do you remember what round of the MLB draft Danny Almonte went?
No, I don't.
That's right, because he wasn't.
Right?
Right?
Name.
How about that?
Of course.
I got WKRP here and the Danny Almonte reference.
Wow.
So,
wow.
But I mean, I always think of that story because I'm like, these kids aren't even close. It's not even
I remember. Do we even know how old Danny Almonte
I think he was 13
it was
to
13 was
15.
the number,
Well,
but it was like there was some uncertainty around that.
Yeah, I think.
yeah.
He was on the cover of AARP the other day. So I mean, like he's accelerated.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll get back to the path here, because your DeSmet years, you had a really good high school career, and that opened the door to your college options. Talk about the options and why you chose IU.
Well, let's talk about DeSmet one more time. I mean, your run in the state tourney.
I told my son we wouldn't talk about DeSmet that much because my son's from SLU.
Oh, there you go. So
Maybe just for the one podcast.
Yeah, there we go.
What about? I mean, give us a story about that run in your state tourney. I think '97. You guys win it.
Yeah.
Growing the hair out. I mean, you got the crazy hair. I think Matt McKeon comes in and trains you guys. He was he was a national star. I mean, how about that?
He came in and kicked the shit out of. I mean, when he came in and trained with us, it was like a man and boys, and it was like I remember thinking like, why is he crushing everybody? Right, like relax, man. But it was just somebody that was like, I'm gonna teach these kids what it's going to be like at the next level. It was pretty cool looking back.
That's a cool
experience. But at the
experience.
time I remember thinking like, man, this guy's really serious. Let's just pump the brakes
Settle
a little
down.
bit. But
It's just a game, Fokker.
He was a man. And so, yeah, the DeSmet years were those were great years. Those 4 years, Greg Vitello, what a coach. That I think that 4-year period helped really mature me. And when I say really mature me, to be ready for
the next step,
which was college at IU. But I absolutely loved. I thrived in those games, in the CBC tournaments, and the state tournament, and that
playing
run,
your rival at Soccer Park.
Soccer Park,
Yeah.
CBC in the final, and there was an early red card with a handball, and I remember I scored the second goal, but we played up a man for a decent amount of that, but. Playing at Soccer Park, 5,000, whatever the number was there. It was just like that. That was for a 15-year-old, what were we, 16, 17? That's a cool experience, at that age. I love those games.
So really a part B of the earlier question talking about multi-sports, et cetera, really falls into line with what we're talking about right now in that high school experience, because that is also a new debate that players have to go through that are at the academy level, because obviously there's the exclusion. Do you have two cents of a thought on kind of what that experience
Other
means?
than you wouldn't trade it for your life?
No,
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't. I loved that path was the right path for me to be. I would after school, 3 whatever the bell rang at 3:00. We were out on the field at 4. When the season was over, and then it was basketball, and then it was baseball. I wouldn't trade that, It was right for me at that time, but I understand that's not for everybody. We all have a different path. You mentioned it, Jared, and how we get there.
Yep.
But I thrived in multiple sports and just the different challenges and the different ways of competing. Because if it was just soccer for me at that time, I think I probably would have got burnt out.
Another thing that's important to comment on too as well is that path you're talking about. I know this for a fact because we have mutual friends. Those kids you went to school with and played soccer, basketball, and baseball, a lot of them did the same thing and played multi-sports. Those are your friends for life.
Yeah.
Those are like, you don't remember, you did remember the goal you scored, a man up against, CBC in the state championship, but I'm sure you remember the bus ride to, wherever you played, or the bus ride home after you got spanked by somebody you should have beat.
Best. Where you're playing
that stuff.
The tournaments were, not just for us as kids, but your parents. My parents loved going on the trips. I remember the buses, they'd have their cooler of beer in the middle, loving like just the social aspect of these tournaments. You're doing it right now in a different way, but you drove to Columbus, to Cincinnati to follow your kids, and I'm sure there's parents that you two are enjoying your time together.
Absolutely.
Those are memorable moments. from my past, and I love it. But a little bit of that is gone when you start to focus on it's just one thing, and this is what I'm going after in terms of the academies now.
Yeah.
So it's not for everybody, and it's not for every parent.
So another part of that I want to kind of keep pulling out here is, and we've all lived it personally, and what you're talking about is really the role that competition, the will, the desire to win with your friends, because there's a goal, there's a defined goal when you play high school soccer in particular. You start the season and you want to make it to the playoffs and you want to win state. Yep. It's a very linear line, right? Yep. And in the advanced academy world, yes, there are things to play for. There's always something to play for that's baked into the math. But the hyper focus on competition and winning as a team is definitely, I wouldn't say a distant second, but maybe a 1B to player development.
Yep.
What's your thoughts on the compare and contrast of let's find kids, teach them how to compete, and let's make them better as individual players?
If we're just talking about academies, and certainly you see now established academies and the top players in the markets that are going that route, and so for those kids in those academies, it's not just about winning now. Their goal is to be a professional player, and it's not just about you have to understand how to win. That is a part of it, but at the U13 level, what we're seeing outside today. That for me, that when I'm watching the game, I'm not looking at who's winning the game. No. Yes, it's important. We want FCC to win. You want City to win. I want to see which kids are figuring out how to learn the game, and part of that is struggle. Part
Body
of that
movement.
is okay. This is a top prospect, but he's struggling to understand how to defend the box, or he's struggling with his fitness. So how are we allowing him to struggle at the end of a game, and maybe you concede a goal and maybe you lose, but that for me is the coach's job in the development phase, is to put aside at times the wins and the losses to improve the player in their game understanding or their technical ability, tactical understanding, whatever it is, the physical component. Development is a priority at a young age. When you're talking about trying to become a professional,
right? Yeah. And so that's interesting. So your next step after DeSmet is you're going into IU, and you play for a guy who probably gets it at a higher clip than most humans. All the shit you just explained.
Yeah.
So talk about the Yeagley years.
Man, just the names, Vitello to Yeagley, and then all the coaches professionally. I was really fortunate to be coached by some of the best at those levels. And Jerry Yeagley, for me, of course, I'm biased. He was the best college soccer coach. And so and it wasn't just him as a coach, it was him as a leader.
Developing men.
As a developer of men.
Yeah.
And he cared so much more about just what you did on the field. He wanted to know about my family. How are my parents? When are they coming in to watch me play? How's my sister doing at Tulsa? He just knew everything about your family, and he cared. And when you have a coach that cares like that for you as a human being, you go a little bit further for that guy.
Well,
you
let me
work
ask
a little bit harder for that guy to achieve success. But he was what a great coach, and what a better human being.
Let me ask you about the family experience of your process, because coming out of DeSmet, I'm assuming you had quite a few offers coming down the pipe. You chose IU. How close were your parents to the process, and what was that experience of letting them know, when you got the phone call or the letter or whatever it was? What was that moment like?
It was a cool moment. The reason for choosing IU was proximity. I wanted to get out of St. Louis. I knew that, but I remember going on recruiting visits to Duke in North Carolina, and I loved the North Carolina visit. That was probably my second choice, but I just had that feeling when I went to Indiana with the meeting with Coach Yeags, and then how I felt around the players at the time, how they treated me on that recruiting visit.
Did you get it like to the clip that of how he developed men, like when you were 17, 18 going on that visit and choosing it for that reason?
Yeah, how much was it about character versus game?
That's a good question, because when I went, I knew I was going into a champion.
Yeah.
You know, they had just won the NCAA championship, and when I was on my recruiting visit, the way the players described coach and the team and the university, the experience, it was special. You know, you could see that, you could feel that. And I remember I did it. I was on the trip with Doug Warren, who ended up being a teammate, both in college and or a roommate in college, and then professionally. But I just had the right experience, and I knew it. And then so when you asked about the moment, I remember being on the phone and talking to Coach Yeagley, talking about the scholarship that I was going to get, and my parents were on the line as well, and we were in different rooms in the house.
And the cord was 40 feet long.
Exactly.
Your mom used to whip you with it when she was cooking dinner.
Who was
amazing how many spirals.
Yeah, who was on the red phone? Who had the presidential?
Well, and I tell you what, I mean, what you're saying about Yeags and just growing up in the Midwest playing soccer, didn't have the fortune to play for him or even get that opportunity, but men are being a shithead or being a jerk coming out of Indiana, said no one ever. I mean, because the best compliment you can give that guy, other than all his accolades and all his success winning, is I've never heard of a shithead coming from Indiana.
Well,
he knew everything that was going on, by the way. I mean, obviously, you know, he had plenty of he had a large network in that university, and so if somebody was getting out of line in terms of grades or you know, off the field conduct, he knew about it, and you were in his office, and then you had a real conversation about it, and it was over. And so he knew how to manage that, you know, in such and he was an expert at it, and that's why you talk when you say like there's no shitheads. He knew how. He was a great judge of character, and if anybody was on a line, he knew how to, you know, pull them back in and then say, no, this is not what we're about, and this is not what you want to become. And so he was so good at managing that.
So now that we've distracted from the original question twice.
What was the original question?
The original question, and I blame me and Jared on this.
Yeah, me too.
Your parents' reaction to the moment when they knew, when you told them, when they were on the phone.
Yeah.
What was that? What was that moment?
I could sense like my father on the line, like it was like that pause of like, oh, this is a real offer, you know, in terms of that number. And so then the you know, you hang up the phone and then you just kind of walk into the other room, and it was just like, you know, I just remember, I think, you know, it's just that big hug, like, yeah, we knew I wanted to go to IU, but this just solidified it, this call.
It was real.
And it was like, holy shit, Coach Yeags wants you to come to Indiana. So big hug from my mom and dad, and it was a cool moment because they, you know, you know it with our careers growing up, or our careers in youth sport, your parents are driving you around everywhere, and they're at your games.
It's almost rewarding them.
It is a reward to them, because I remember how much joy they got from watching their children. Not just myself. I'm one of five. I had 3 older sisters, a younger brother, and they were somehow involved in all of our sporting events.
And holding full-time jobs.
Traveling, full-time jobs, in debt. And it was just like to see the joy that they got out of their son, you know, getting a scholarship to a top university. It was very rewarding, and they're here this weekend. They've been the biggest supporters of my, you know, career in life. What do we got there?
So so where'd they take you to dinner that night? That's my real question. You remember?
No, I don't know. That's where the
pizza?
memory is.
Yeah.
Maybe some emos.
Some emos.
Some toasted R's.
Yeah. I mean, what else are you gonna get? I think when I got mine, we had Ernie and Annie's tacos.
I think my mom made chicken tonight.
Chicken tonight.
She was like, about time,
That
Jared.
Rich and Charlie's night. We had Rich and Charlie's down the street, or Duffy's. We were at Duffy's.
Oh, there you go. Yep. Well, hey, we're gonna come right back. We're gonna talk. We're gonna shift up from playing for free to getting paid to play.
Got it.
So thanks for your time.
The term staycation was really invented by soccer moms. Located 1 hour and 7 minutes from the Arch, the Music Box Chalet at Innsbruck is a hidden gem. Buried in 3 acres of private woods, the Music Box has a master suite for just you, a loft and second bath for them, and a vinyl collection to meet your every mood. The full-size kitchen will easily accommodate 3 to 12 bottles of rosé, while the huge fire pit seating area will keep the big kids busy. Golf, fishing, kayaking, pickleball, or simply reading a book with Mother Nature, all at your fingertips. Visit either VRBO or Airbnb to find the Music Box Chalet. And now, back to those guys.
They have a certain amount of give a F.
Oh, there's a lot of give and F.
Yeah,
like you said, you're not talking to your son because he's bothered by this right now.
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, we're back live here as well. Let me ask this question real quick before we shift into your pro career. Losses. We were just talking about the balance of competition versus player development and talking in real time about our kids and kind of expectation with wins and losses. And, it's weird to come across an individual that's playing at this level that isn't bothered by a loss. Like, you should be bothered, but maybe it's not the priority. In your early career, what's the loss that still stings? Whether it was a high school loss or a club loss, because we all know the one that got away.
In high school, sophomore year, I missed a PK. Was it sophomore year? No, my senior year against CBC. And it was windy,
PK?
and it was on turf, and I couldn't get the ball to stop moving. But the reality was, I had to take the PK, and I had to take my hand off it, and I was always going to my left, and that's the way the wind was going. It was just naive, like, well, okay, change it up, man, go the other way, because that and I missed left, and we lost that game. That bothered me.
Was it on 2 or 3 at Soccer Park, which was an ice rink?
Was it against CBC?
When you're pulling into the parking lot, first turf field, and then the one next to it.
Yeah, that's 3 is the far one.
Yeah,
3.
Yeah,
it was on 3.
Wow. And remember the turf when we were growing up there? I mean, it was a concrete with a sheet of AstroTurf.
Well, if we need clarification, we can just call Terry, because I guarantee that man has it in his notebook exactly what we did that day.
That one hurt. College, just because it was it was the last one we lost as a senior at UConn. It was the coldest game that I had experienced. We actually didn't wear.
I hated cold
We had
games.
to go buy the Adidas with the nubs, like the indoors,
The shorts.
because it was the field was frozen, and so we had to play with those shoes because you couldn't get your studs into the ground, and so we lost 1-0. It was a miserable game, so it wasn't even an enjoyable experience because you couldn't feel your toes. It was.
Why did they play that game on December 15th? I mean, or that weekend of? I mean,
in the Northeast.
I get it. It's a fall season, and then the NCAA tournament stretched out. It just makes no sense to me.
Well, but logistically, we have a few southern options to choose from.
Yeah.
You can pick a neutral site.
But it's been cold in Cary. I mean, where they've been having it the last few years. I mean, they've had some cold Final Fours in North Carolina.
They had one St. Louis that was
Cold.
I remember it being really cold. I don't know what year it was, but I feel like it wasn't.
Well, it was probably 92 degrees the next day.
Exactly. We know what that's like here in Cincy. But, yeah, those were a couple of the early. And then, in my professional days, we lost 3 finals in a row with New England in 5, 6, 7. So that's not great.
That's a good segue.
Well, yeah, that's a perfect segue. So, your generation in particular, I mean, there's just so many names that were really part of that. Not the immediate first wave of MLS, but 1B, as I mentioned earlier. In 2002, going 2 and 3, you had Taylor and Brad. You're coming out in 2003. You're drafted 9th. First question is, leaving IU and being the St. Louis guy and seeing all of your buddies, having, they're in the mix.
Yeah.
They're playing. Well, what did it mean to you? Preparing, exiting your 4th year at IU, knowing that MLS is coming knocking, and what was that process like?
There was motivation in the sense that, Taylor and Brad, had already become pros and were having success, and coming out of St. Louis, that competitive edge.
Yep.
I wanted that, and so I was jealous of their early success because they were the talk of St. Louis.
Shit, you went to grade school with Taylor.
And
think about that grade school.
Close friends, but there was still that competitiveness, where
probably pretty good at kickball.
He's a rookie scoring 20, I don't know, whatever the number was, 25 goals, broke the record. He was killing it. And so going into getting drafted by New England, all I knew was the Midwest. So going to Boston, big town, just a totally different lifestyle, and having to grow up pretty quickly. But again, you get into this new environment, you got people to help you figure some shit out. And so we had a great group in Boston. That's probably one of the closest teams that I've been a part of. Yeah.
Was that when you made really good friends with Ralston? I mean, another St. Louis guy.
Coleman, Dempsey was a part of that team. Jay Heaps, Matt Reese. We had a really good group, and we competed. There were fights all the time. I mean, it was just different back then, and so
yeah. Who do
that
we have
helped
on?
me figure out what it was going to be like to survive as a rookie.
The Soccer Resilience guy was talking about those trainings when he went in that group, and he was like, I love him now, but Taylor was a mother effer to play with because he didn't take any prisoners, and he's like, we fought. I mean, who was it?
If you were a weak link in training, it was going to be hard for you, and Taylor would let you know. I'm sure I wasn't the kindest,
Yep.
There were some killers. Shaw Reed Joseph, Joey Franchino, like some of these names. If you would have just seen Joey Franchino, you'd be like, all right, I'm not going to mess with this dude.
It was Wells Thompson.
Thompson. Yep.
It was Wells Thompson because he's got a little. He's got a company now. It's called Soccer Resilience.
Yeah, and they work with our boys. They work with the club.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. Well, Wells. He would flip a switch, in training sometimes where he would just if something pissed him off. So that was just the nature of our group.
Oh, he talked about that, but he said we brought up Taylor's name. He goes, am I still on the microphone?
Yeah, we made it hard. He made it hard for Wells, that's for sure. So, but it was sink or swim. If you couldn't handle that kind of, because everybody, you're pros. By the way, I'm a rookie in 2003, stepping into an environment where guys have kids and families, and this is how they're supporting their family. I'm a kid out of college supporting myself. So if you went into training and said, oh, okay, it's okay that we lost small-sided today because I didn't track a runner, guess what? The guy with a family that's trying to continue his career, he's going to let you know about it. And so that
creates
I
winners.
think that's why we had success. When I say success, obviously we came up short in some of those finals, but we competed.
Who was the toughest dude in the locker room?
Franchino. It's not even close. Joey Franchino. If you don't know much about him, great left foot. He was a left back, maybe a wing back at times.
Was he an extra in Good Will Hunting? Was he one of the brothers, friends,
If you saw Joey on the street, we'll just walk the other way. He was a great teammate. I sat right next to him in the locker room, and again, you got to earn the respect of these guys right away.
Yeah.
And it was important that I earned his respect because I knew if he was on my side anywhere that I went, if anybody messed with me, I had somebody on my back on my side that was going to take care of business.
Well, I can tell you this,
because what was I going to do?
You. People speak highly of you like that, like Danny Wynn, for instance. I mean, Danny Wynn said you're the best teammate he's ever played with.
No shit.
I mean, just the way you treated people and demanded, greatness. I mean, so that's high praise.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
it was about winning. And I say it like, if you want to win, it's holding people accountable, and it wasn't winning by all costs. I wasn't trying to cheat. It was okay. Do we want to win? How do we go about having success? How do we have conversations and hold guys accountable? And that was certainly the environment in New England, and that helped us to achieve some levels of success.
Well, I mean, you individually, you had a lot of success that year. I believe you were the runner-up to the Rookie of the Year voting, et cetera. And a lot more doors are opening. In particular, the national team opportunity.
Right.
Tell us kind of when that came to fruition, and guttural What was your reaction when you did get that call to, hey, come to camp and let's see how this goes?
It was after that rookie season. Then you go into 2004, and there was always the January camp, and it was a chance to evaluate some of the guys in the league that have done well. And I went in nervous. You try to put your head down and work hard and not stand out for the wrong reasons. And so I think I had a decent camp. It was a lot of new faces, so a chance for the coaches, Bruce, to evaluate the league guys, to potentially help at the international level, because it's a totally different game. And so that was the first sniff. And, I think I was able to continue to have an opportunity with the national team and with Bruce because of the success that we were having and, being productive and scoring goals and getting some assists with New England. And then, that gave me about a 3 or 4 year career with a national team with Bruce when I was healthy. And every camp you get a little bit more comfortable, but every camp was a little different. All of a sudden you start bringing in the guys that are playing in Europe. You start bringing in the Josh Wolfs and the Bocanegras and the Kellers and all these names of, Joe Maximo, all these guys who have done it before. And now, the nerves are a different level. And now you're going into Azteca and Mexico for qualifying. And it was a step-by-step process for me to be able to be a part of big games, and so
that
it
early
started
success
in that January camp.
That early New England locker room setting that you just explained probably helped you out quite a bit.
Yeah, because Taylor was already a part of it. Ralston was already a part of it. So they knew what they kind of just help you out. Here's what you can expect coming in, man. Here's the guys that you can trust. Here's the guys you want to be around. And that was indicative of any Bruce team. He knew how to get the right people in to work for a cause, and so they were very helpful in the transition period of going into a national team camp, because a lot of times you can go into that nervous and kind of not sure what to expect. So I think that probably helped me to at least go in and maybe have some initial success.
That's awesome.
So they were definitely helpful with that.
So what did it mean to you, personally, kind of like as a fun asterisk for your first cap? If Wiki is right,
Haiti,
you get subbed in the Haiti game, and who'd you sub in for?
Damn,
Ralston.
Did I? Well, I remember the trip. I remember hanging out with Ralston. We might have been, I think we were roommates for a portion of that trip, because I remember we left that camp and we were supposed to go back to preseason, I believe. And we got a call from a new Joe Cummings. What a legend. And didn't know him as well at the time. And Stevie Nickel, our coach at the time, was telling us to go back to Boston. We weren't going to go meet him wherever they were in preseason. I was pissed off. And I'm like, what do you mean we're not going to go be with the team? I want to go be with my teammates and train. I don't want to go back to Boston for 5 days. So, Ralston and I were roommates on that trip in Miami. But that was the first, I couldn't really tell you much about the game. We tied 1-1.
Yeah, it was tied. It was, I was reading a little bit of the headlines, and it was like
Richard Mulrooney?
Fourth +4 in extra time at the end of the game. You guys tied up 1-1.
Yeah.
So
can you quickly, because who scored? Do you know? I don't know how hard that would be.
If Jared comes up with a quick question,
I'm just curious to know if my memory is good. I said Richard Mulrooney, but I don't know if that's accurate. I know he was a part of that trip. It's funny how just there's certain names or certain
he was a good
parts
player.
of the trip that you remember. But Haiti was the first game, and
I remember getting spanked by him quite a bit at Creighton.
Yeah, he was a good player. Man.
He was a good player.
He was driven, man.
He's a good player. And I bet you he remembers us spanking him a time or two.
Yeah.
Caliph, 94th.
Caliph?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was wrong.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, and let's see here. Pope Caliph goals USA, and if I was recall, Ralston, Noonan, 75th minute. Sorry.
75th, okay.
Yeah. U.S. days, you were part of that 05 Gold Cup team.
Yeah.
We had Brad on a little while back, and, he kind of walked through, the effect of the bright lights and the emotion and everything. And the best part of his story was have the game, and you guys all immediately left after the game, and he actually made it home in time to watch SportsCenter with his family with the highlights
That's
of the
crazy.
game. What was your kind of, what's that space in your brain that's stored up from your Gold Cup experience? Because that's a pinnacle in U.S. soccer history.
Yeah, he's got a really good memory.
I think he had did he have the game-winning penalty
PK.
kick?
Yeah, PK.
Well,
I think I remember
that
that.
helps, but but aside from that, trying to remember, I was injured for the final because I remember I sat up top with Ralston in the semifinal game. We beat Honduras 2-1, I believe, and came from behind. I think we were down 1-0, but I got destroyed. I forget what league player it was, and he went through my ankle, and we were at the Meadowlands on grass on top of the turf.
Right.
And it's 100 degrees. It's just a grind. But so I missed the final, and we were up top, and I think we shaved our heads, Steve and I, but we messed up on the clipper, and so we went way too short.
Oh,
or maybe
my
Steve went first, and then we realized oh, whoa, that's bad, and so maybe I didn't shave my head.
Our PR rep.
That's
will
my
not
memory
like
of
this.
that. But we were up top for that, and Brad game winner, but. Again, it's important to be a part of winning teams, and so we have that Gold Cup and we win a trophy. That's what drives me is aside from the relationships and the development and all these things, being able to hold a trophy. It's a team sport, so to celebrate that moment with your teammates is pretty cool. And so it's a long trip, man. The Gold Cup that's a grind. You're in different cities, you're playing tough games. It's hot.
Yeah,
Hostile environments.
Hostile environment. It was less hostile just because it's here. Like when you're talking about going to Azteca and some of these, that takes on a whole different level. But there's still certain markets within the U.S. where you feel like you're away from home. But it's a long. That's a month, and it wears on you. But at that time, I'm single. I don't have.
You talk about
any
trophies here.
responsibilities.
Trophies are the pinnacle. Well, you're 2008 year in Columbus?
Yeah.
Did you win them all? I think you guys won
I
all
came
of them.
into the group mid-season
Okay.
from Norway, and so they had an established group. They were, I think, towards the top of the table, but we ended up winning MLS Cup and the Supporter Shield. And at that time, Supporter Shield didn't hold the weight that it does now. Because for me, that means more. That's hard to do to be the top team over the course of the 34 games now. But at the time, people didn't value the Supporter Shield as much. So we won the Supporter Shield and MLS Cup.
And the Open Cup, didn't you? I thought you won all three that year.
The trouble, I wasn't there for the Open Cup because of joining late. But I don't think that. Oh, shoot, I should know that. But I don't think we won. I don't think they won the Open Cup that year. Did they?
According to, let's see here.
Well,
yeah, DC United.
yeah.
Really?
So it was 2 out of 3. I was like, man,
That's pretty good.
Well, but we had a great team. Scalotto this guy was the man.
Yeah.
Guillermo Barros Scalotto. It was Chad Marshall. We had that was similar to the New England team. We just had a really good group, and I joined late, and I was a reserve player, but we just really enjoyed each other, in the company and the relationships, and we'd run 15 deep when we were doing things. You don't see that a lot. We would go, and that's with the wives, significant others, whoever was joining us. So that also drove that group, is because everybody worked for each other.
You guys were tight.
Everybody
You guys were
enjoyed
tight.
each other, and so that matters. But
talking about that time frame, then, really from your 03 entry into the league, running through your cap years through 08, winning, being part of a team that's winning a lot of cups, and beyond. Who stands out to you? Not necessarily as a teammate, but just as the player, as a player that when you either with or against, that was kind of like you put a little mark on the calendar, like, I can't wait for this because of that guy. Or
at that time,
or who just
I
who
wasn't,
just like
I wasn't,
amazed you?
Well, Landon, competing against him, having spent time with him, with the national team, and then eventually, playing with him in 2012 with LA, and then coaching him a little bit. He was just elite, and the way he moved with the ball, the way he took off and changed speeds, excellent passer, excellent fish. He was a top player. I know this is gonna it seemed like I'm kissing his ass. Taylor was an elite goal scorer.
He had the shit you can't
he
teach.
Stunk at everything else, but no, I'm kidding. His hold-up play, he just had a feel for the game, but in front of goal, he was so clean.
God,
he was so clean.
Sniper.
And, at that time in the league, he was one of the best, and his career was derailed with the concussions because you look at his numbers and what he could have accomplished. But in front of goal, I got to see that every day. Clint Dempsey, he was taken off at that time. But
all those three guys that you're saying, they have something to me when you're watching it on TV or you're watching Gold Cups or you're watching World Cups or you're watching MLS games. They have something about them. They have a chip on their shoulder that is just a little bit more of a chip than most.
Yeah, and
they are motherfuckers.
Yeah, and let me add to that because
Taylor was.
I believe that I still see it in them today, whether it's on a television broadcast or on Twitter or whatever. Right. There's a certain amount of edginess that comes out of guys like Dempsey and Taylor, kind of just naturally, And as players, you could see it when they would play. And did you gravitate towards those types of players, just from a personality standpoint, or was it just what was it about them that just inspired you?
Surround yourself by winners.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see it when you go into training, into games, guys that know how to step up in the moment and have that it factor. So you try to be around those guys because they're going to help you be the best version of yourself. And go ahead.
Well, no, he opened the door. Did you hear him just say that? The it factor.
Okay.
This is a common theme in our show, and we've talked to everybody from Kenny Godat. We've talked to Brad, a lot of individuals. What is it to you? Like when you watch these young players, forget about the professional level, but when you watch young kids coming up through the system, what are you looking for whenever you see a kid and the switch of that kid's got it?
Just the way they think the game, the way they move on the field. When you talk about finding space, creating space, whether it's for yourself or your teammate, in the key moment, in that big moment, how they're able to make a play, whether it's getting a touch on the ball to start the transition because they understood the passing lane or they baited somebody into something specific that they wanted. And the it factor is the guy that understands in the most important moments how to come out on top. Goal, assist, defensive play. They just have a feel for a game and an understanding that I need to make this play in this moment to help our team win a game. And so, I think that's what I look for when I'm watching this game out here. I'm like, all right, I talked to you about the kid up top, and I'm like, the way when he scores the goal, the way he times his movement to get a touch on the ball, almost baits that center back into thinking, I got this. I'm going to win this ball. He gets the touch by him. He takes off as the goalkeeper's coming off. He already knows what he's going to do with his footwork, where he wants to take the ball. And it was an excellent finish, and that's why I asked you about the kid. But that in that moment, I just see from a 10-minute, and again, I don't know the kid, but the way he was moving on the field and the timing of the things he was doing, he looked like somebody that had that. I could be wrong. I don't know. That's a 10-minute clip. But it was something that you notice when you've been around the game long enough. Absolutely. Is guys that just have a feel for making the play.
So within your camp, within your team, obviously there are certain players that probably exhibit that it at different times. Do you ever try to dissect it or nurture it or communicate with them about it to try and maintain it, or is it just for you as a coach and as a mentor, do you just kind of let it occur organically and just stick to the game plan?
More that I don't talk to players about the it factor. Try to position them to be the it factor, and that's my job as a coach. Is how do I structure our team to go out and have success, but by me, or our staff positioning them in certain ways, we are hopefully putting them in a position to have success. And that means we're putting them in the best position to have their it factor. Because
Okay.
I can't teach that. I can't
Right.
teach the guy to understand this is where the ball is going to bounce in the box in this moment. You can. We talk so much about tactics and having the influence as a coach. Once the game starts, these guys are now in position where it's constantly it's a fluid game. Things are constantly changing. So these players in the moment need to understand what the game calls for in order to make plays. And I can't be screaming and telling them all the things to do. So that's me positioning them to then
kick it harder,
do what they do best, or bring out the it factor in them.
Right.
But that's on the player.
Talk about your. We're now getting into this coaching. You're talking about it into your coaching career. You have guys that you've mentioned: Vitello, Yeagley, Bruce. I mean, you get out to LA, start your coaching career. I think Chris Klein was involved in that probably.
Yep.
Talk about guys that have the it factor on that side of the bench.
That's a good
How using all of those guys that you played for, how do you emulate your style now with all of those great soccer minds that you've just lived and got the fortunate time to spend? You spent time with them. I mean,
right. You kind of just you observe. You take bits and pieces. Okay, I want to be a coach. So, what does Bruce do that I respect, that I value? What does he do that I would do different? So I tried to take in all of those experiences, under Bruce. Then it was Stevie Nickel prior, but it was Ziggy Schmidt. It was Jim Curtin. And so those are all very successful coaches.
Absolutely.
But I'm my own coach. And so I have things that I might see differently from them, but there are a lot of things that they did well that I say, okay, this is why they're having success. This is from the X's and the O's to the man management to the leadership. How do the it factor for the coach is, all right, what do I say? When do I say it? How do I say it at the right time? And
to get the most out of everybody.
To get the most out of the individual and the team.
Yep.
So, all right, Jared, you might be having a shitty day in training out there, and I know something's going on more than just your performance. And so instead of blasting you in front of the group, no, okay, let him have his day. I'm going to pull you aside and I'm going to bring you to the office. I'm going to say, hey, I know this is going on, or I know you're struggling for whatever reason. All right. And then I can have a real conversation one-on-one so that when you walk out of the door, all right, you're going to be a better version of yourself tomorrow. And that's coaches that have a feel for their players and their personalities and the different cultures and how to bring it all together. And Bruce, the names, Jim, all these guys, not only are they, good tacticians, good coaches, but more so than that, they're man managers and they're good leaders. And so when you have that, the players, your staff members, they want to work hard for you. They want to achieve success with you, and especially when you have guys that aren't in the starting lineup or aren't the focal point as a staff member. How do you treat those people to keep them moving in the right direction? All right, to stay in the same on the same path of here's our goals, here's what we're trying to achieve, because everybody wants to be a part of it and everybody wants to feel valued, and so. I think that's important in understanding how to bring people along with your message and how you deliver it. And I've taken a lot from those coaches in that regard in terms of how I manage, how I lead.
Wow.
So a lot of the OGs that we've talked to, coaching wise, I'm talking like the local OGs like Mickler and Coach Baker, et cetera. They all walk around with their little notebook.
Yeah.
Right. And it's accumulated over 50 plus years of coaching. What's your notebook like, or are you more of a free flow, lean into kind of the maybe like a looser culture and just allow them to do their thing, or are you super structured? Kind of like give us a little insight there.
I like to think I'm detail oriented, but there's no notebook. I just kind of take certain moments or experiences, whether it's on the field, whether it's from a game, and the memorable ones, the things that I say, this worked or this didn't work. this is how I'm going to adjust, or this is what I'm going to do moving forward. I kind of take it organically in that regard, in terms of growing and becoming a better coach and a better leader. But I like routine. I like routine and when I wake up. I like routine and how I get into the office. I like routine and the meeting times and then, but there's the organic side of, all right, when do I have conversations with players or staff members, or what's the day that I need to leave early and just, clear my mind or be with family. Right. So it's not so structured that it's monotonous, because I don't like the monotony sometimes of our work day and our workflow. But
Groundhog Day.
I do like a lot of routine in certain aspects of my job that make me feel in control of the day and of my preparation.
I love that. I want to go back a little bit to U.S. soccer, because I've been thinking about this a lot, in anticipation of this conversation with you, and thinking about some of the past conversations with other individuals that have been part of that process. And in today's marketplace, in today's current events with our national team, and I think of the relationship between MLS, U.S. soccer, and Europe in particular. And obviously the value that our European players are playing in U.S. soccer, going back to your guys' years, with Taylor, et cetera, it was MLS heavy, to the point of, it was the outliers were the European players.
Right.
Well, that's all flipped around a little bit. What's your take on that, and what do you look at that maybe MLS can or should do or whatever in regards to focusing on, if it's a focus on U.S. soccer moving forward, because we're really looking at almost European exclusive at some points,
right,
for these teams that are being built out.
Well, you see the emphasis on youth development, from the MLS clubs, and investments from ownership groups, with the academies as well. But you also need, these philosophies and coaches to believe in them. So with Jim Curtin as an example, that Union Academy was established. But if Brendan Aronson and Mark McKenzie aren't given a chance and aren't thrown out there and given the trust by Jim, are they at Leeds United? Are they at Genk right now? Probably not. They need an opportunity. And so I think we've really taken strides in terms of our youth development to get players, valuable experience in big games and big moments to show that what they're capable of. And I think now we've found a nice little rhythm of developing players and then giving them opportunities to go to Europe and have success. And so now you're seeing how that pays the dividends from the national team, from the U.S. soccer perspective of how our national team competes and what we're capable of. And obviously these next 4 years leading up to 26 is going to be so important. And you look at the previous the 22 team and that age,
right?
These guys are going to be in their prime in 26. That's exciting to me. They're playing in top leagues, and not only are they playing, they're producing. And that didn't used to be the case. You maybe you see guys here and there get a sniff,
right.
Maybe at the teams at the bottom of the table, but we're talking the biggest clubs in the world now, where you got Americans that are going and playing and really developing and taking their game to another level. So I just think youth development, but also the investment in it has been vital from ownership groups, and so. And it's not for every MLS club. You have some teams that they value winning and trophies, and the opportunity is not going to be there for the 17, 18-year-old. But there's a lot of clubs that believe in that, and it's really been rewarding to see how many players have come through the academies and from MLS and now been a part of our national team, but also playing in top clubs in Europe and South America. So I think there was another question, but
that fires me up though. I'm just
I purposely asked that because I knew Jared would be stewing a little bit, because he's very, very patriotic, and so it's like as most of us are. Obviously, I mean, you are. You wore the colors, right? this debacle at the top and all of that. Do you think that it's too much of a distraction? Are you, because I'm sure you're
In terms of U.S. soccer?
Coach, who's going to lead? It's one thing to see.
Yeah.
You just referenced, you look at that 22 team and you look at the average ages and you look at some of the players that have came out of the tournament and frankly in league performance that are continuing to turn heads and improve at the highest level. We theoretically are sitting in a brilliant position, coasting, dragging on the race, right?
Yeah.
But we don't have a mass
leader.
Yeah, I mean, how does that?
It's
bug?
alarming.
How bad does that bug you?
It's alarming because you want that coach to be in position as early as possible to start having an impact on the cycle and making sure that when we step on the field in 26, we're prepared to have some real success at a World Cup. So my guess is it's going to happen right after the Gold Cup. That's some of the news that I've heard, but the earlier the better. But at the same time, you don't want to rush it. There's a lot of moving parts as to when coaches come available. And I mean, obviously, there's some American names that have become available recently. And so, I won't get into the specifics of it. But what I'll say is, you want to get this right. And if that takes a couple extra months, and we say, okay, we can wait till the summer of 23 to get the coach that we want based on whatever information they have and whatever recruitment process they have. Let's get that right, because if we get it right, 26 can be pretty special and can take U.S. soccer, all right, and Major League Soccer to another level in terms of becoming a top league and a top country, with our sport.
Well, let me ask you this then, because you mentioned it. A few American names have become available in recent, literally days, weeks. Let me ask about the other side of the pond, though. What do you think about the prospect? Because within, international news, there are some huge names that have actually been thrown into the conversation.
Right.
So when you hear a name like Patrick Vieira or Thierry Henry or Josie, right? Because Taylor famously said on Twitter, bring them all in.
Yeah.
Let's talk to all of them.
Yep.
What's your thought on a super high level established, just a big European name as potentially taking European players that are all of American descent
when we have 22 players
into
on our team that are playing in Europe?
Yeah. What's your thoughts on a European?
I was asked about it. I'm okay with it. If we're not going to go the American route, okay, let's get somebody that's had success and experience in tournament play. That's essentially what this is about: is to have success at the World Cup. Right. So. The other thing is they have to value the American player and our league and our culture, and I think that's important. Getting somebody in here who either, like you said, Patrick Vieira, he's coached in Major League Soccer. So okay, if that's the name, at least he had the respect of this league to come and coach here. I think his time was successful here. I think he had good things to say, good experiences. So now he's gone on and gotten even more experience. Okay, if he's the guy that's coming back. At least it's somebody that values our league, all right, and the U.S. player, the American player. That's important, because if you're just going and getting a top coach who might be coming in and doesn't value our player and our culture and our style or what works for us, that's not the right fit.
It's not going to work. You're right. I mean, that's just not going to work. If we do that, and that you have to, what you said, reference, we have to get it right.
Yeah.
And if we don't have a guy that you just explained, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be absolutely a nightmare.
We all want it to work out. We all have our thoughts and our opinions, but it would be really rewarding to get the right person in place and not just the coach, but all the surrounding pieces that you need to support the coach and to support the federation, so that in 26. Not only is it a memorable World Cup because it's taking place in the U.S. as well as obviously Mexico and Canada, but we have real success and I have a team on the field that is a top team at the World Cup. So
It's decided. Pat Noonan for coach.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean,
t-shirts,
look,
Team Noonan.
I think we know somebody that's like at the top of their division. Would you give up Skyline Chili if they gave you the call? Oh.
I'm not ready. I'll tell you that.
At home. Team Noonan. Let's
get
go.
Good players. Get good coaches next to you that make you look good. It's not rocket science.
No, we know that. So let's talk a little bit on the personal side. Then you've been here two years.
Yeah, since really the December of 21. You know, when the process started. So that's that's post COVID. Post COVID, but leading that was a very quick turnaround from our playoff run in Philly to becoming the head coach and then starting the process. So
you guys you moved out here. Let's see if I'm doing the math right. You had a 9 and a 7-year-old roughly at
Correct.
that time. What do you guys do here for? What's your fun time? What's your non-soccer time? Because you talked about you try to make sure and you're very, very structured, but when you can get away, you want to get away. What do you do when you get away?
Well, the kids' sports, so that's the world we live in now because they're involved in stuff. So it's just driving them or going and watching their games. But I do enjoy doing that when I have time on the weekends. During the weekdays, we're in a great town where the kids can get on their bikes and just go play. And they have a lot of friends. They can walk to the school. So we're really fortunate in that regard. But I love being outside. If the weather's nice, I don't want to be inside. So we'll go out into the yard. We'll play soccer. I'll throw wiffle balls to them.
Little barbecue going.
Tell me you don't play pickleball.
Yeah, average barbecue.
No pickleball though, right?
We don't play it a lot, but we have the pickleball. We have this. We have
hear
the
that,
set.
Zach?
I don't mind pickleball. Not for you.
I don't know. Pickleball to me is like another version of curling. It doesn't
just shows
look
we're
like
aging, and it's just like I want to compete, but I can't do anything athletically anymore.
So I've been vocal on the show about pickle. Like so you're not fit enough to play tennis. I get it, okay. And then I came home the other day. My wife had a pickleball set on the counter. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, Beckett wanted it, and Beckett's our plays it. I'm like, he's 48 years from wanting to play pickleball. What is this?
Couldn't have started too early.
I'm like
48.
This is not good, man.
No, we like to hang out in the yard. My daughter likes playing cards, so she likes certain games. She wants to play cards. I think they just like because I work more now. My hours are different. So when I get home, they kind of want to hang out.
Yeah.
And they're at an age where they think I'm still cool.
Well, they're at that age. Let's see, your daughter's probably about 12 to 18 months away from maybe not thinking you're as cool, and your son, you got a few years left.
Yeah.
There you go. Did you ever think you'd have a parking spot? I saw that out there.
I know. You know what?
I mean, you got a parking spot.
I don't love that. I just said, we can have. Here's our parking lot. I don't care about the
First
hierarchy.
come, first serve.
And
just park.
I wasn't the one that put the sticker on your name, so that would be
that. Okay.
No.
I'll have a nice surprise when I get out there.
No, man. Look, we totally appreciate you coming on. We know you're busy. You've got Open Cup this week, and obviously a lot of season left. Postseason, can we expect to see you back in the Lou?
Absolutely.
Right on, man.
I need to have a longer time period though, where I can. Usually, when I go back, it's because I hadn't seen family. Now we're in a closer proximity, so like I said, they were here this weekend. It's easier to drive. When we were in LA, Philly, all these places. When I would come back, it would be for a period of time where I just wanted to chill with them. And so now it's about trying to extend that so that I can do stuff like this.
What I will say is. At last night's game, there was a picture taken on social media, and it was the who's who. It was Brad, Taylor, Taylor's dad, Al Trost, Keogh was in it.
That's awesome.
If you weren't in your job right now,
you
deservedly so to be in that picture.
I appreciate that, man.
Well,
I appreciate your support.
Well, you just made the illustrious Soccer Dad Pod, Wall of Fame. So congratulations
to
that.
Important. Thank you.
It's very important.
That's great.
On a Sunday, man, there's so many other things you could be doing, but we appreciate your time, man. Hey,
this has been fun.
Dude, best of luck with the season. We'll keep in touch. And,
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll do it again.
Take care.
See you.